Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the summit, or welcome back. This is day 5. Welcome, welcome. We'll give it a couple of minutes.
Welcome, everyone. Hi.
You're invited to turn on your camera. Feels more like a community this way. We'd love to see your faces. All right. Building a nice little community. Fantastic.
Hi, welcome. I see lots of different locations in your names already. New York. It looks like maybe Indiana, Mexico. Yeah. Awesome. Feel free to put in the chat where you're located if you like, just so we can see where you're all dialing in from. North Florida. Awesome. Prince Edward. Milwaukee, wonderful. Slovenia, Germany. Hello, fellow German. Poland. Wow, so international. Lots of different US states. Fantastic. Ah, Paris. Bonjour. Oh non, so bonsoir. Mexico. Bonsoir. Wonderful.
All right. I see some other fellow East Coasters preparing for our storm that we're getting tomorrow.
Yes.
Brave folks. Okay.
Ottawa, Canada, wonderful. Oh gosh, we got a lot of people from different places. That's really wonderful to see. Welcome, welcome.
Okay. I think, oh, one more, two more.
Kalispera, Greece, another one from Germany. Oh, so cool. I love seeing that.
Okay, let's officially get started. Welcome, everyone. I want to introduce Katja Cahoon. For those that don't know her, I will read a short bio. Katja Cahoon is a therapist and mindfulness teacher who supports people in building nervous system regulation, emotional resilience, and deeper mind-body connection. She facilitates trauma-informed healing work in both individual and group settings, helping clients cultivate steadiness through mindfulness, somatic awareness, and compassion practice. Katja also serves as lead facilitator for FDA-approved clinical trials and trains clinicians in group-based therapeutic care. Welcome, Katja.
Thank you so much, Eric. And yeah, hi, welcome everybody. This is so awesome. I'm seeing so many different countries and locations. So I want to start us off with a little guided practice that I call coming home. And since we have people from so many different locations, I think this is especially wonderful to do today. And then I'll talk a little bit about discomfort and flow, and we'll do another short guided practice that builds on the topics that I will talk about. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. I'm sure we have a lot of people, so it might be a very lively discussion, I hope. Really bring your questions and experiences. But let's get started just to ground us. So I invite you to close your eyes if that feels safe and comfortable, or maybe lower your gaze. And just find a comfortable position wherever you are. Feel free to lean back or lie down, or however you can be comfortable for the next few minutes. And I'm going to invite you to zoom out very far into outer space. And don't worry, you're in a safe spacesuit, so you can breathe, you're comfortable, you're warm, you're just floating in outer space. And you're looking down on our beautiful blue planet. And you're just seeing it spin. You might see some continents, the oceans, maybe some clouds, or maybe you see the storm that's brewing over North America. So just kind of take in the view from outer space. Just picture this beautiful blue planet, and we're all floating together in outer space. And just take a couple of moments to take that in, couple of breaths. And then I invite you to zoom in a little closer to the continent you find yourself on currently. So maybe you see the outline, the shape of it. And if you don't know exactly what it looks like, just kind of do the best you can. You're just getting a little bit closer to where you are. And then take another breath and zoom in a little closer to the country you're in. So, seeing the outline of your country where you currently find yourself, it might be your home country, might be where you're visiting. And then zoom in a little closer to the city or village where you find yourself. And you might not know exactly what that looks like from high above. Just do the best you can. Maybe there is a landmark that stands out to you, but you're coming closer and closer to where you actually are in space and time. And then zoom in a little closer to the building you find yourself in, your home or whatever building you're in. And come all the way to the room you find yourself in. And then all the way into your body, into your senses, being present in the space you're in and noticing the things you hear around you. There might be just the sound of my voice, there might be some background noises. Just see how many different sounds you can hear. Little rustling from your clothes or the sound of your breathing, neighbors or family or friends in the background or traffic. And then tune in to the smell or scent in your space. It might be the absence of a specific scent or smell, or there might be incense or candle or fire from a fire. And zoom into the felt sense of where you are. What are you noticing? What are you touching? Maybe you feel your clothes on your body or your body supported by whatever you're sitting or resting on. And just tuning into that. And then tune in to a visual sense. So if you have your eyes closed, you're welcome to open them and just look around and take in some favorite things or things you like in the space you're in. Noticing different colors, objects, shapes. Just orienting yourself to this space that you're in, your home base for right now. And take a moment to orient yourself to the screen and to all the people you can see. I know you probably mostly see me, but there are others, right? We have 51 people on this Zoom. So just orienting to everybody who came home to this space in the last 5 minutes to have this shared experience here today, even though we're in so many different countries and states. Here we are together. Welcome. And this is I call this coming home or coming home to a safe base. It's a nice grounding meditation. There'll be a handout and there is a link to that meditation if you want to listen to it again. I'm going to share my screen now and I'm going to talk a little bit about discomfort, which is maybe something that you're like, why are we talking about discomfort? So here is that meditation. Um, so we often think of discomfort as something bad, right? But there is no growth without discomfort, right? However, not all discomfort leads to growth, right? It has to be the right kind of discomfort in the right amount, under the right conditions or circumstances, and within the right nervous system context. So then, when those conditions are present, discomfort becomes something that is actually helpful, that can help us grow. So let's go over what that actually means. And I think I'm going to unshare here and just speak for a bit, and then I'll bring the slides back to illustrate certain points. So many mental health struggles, including depression, anxiety, trauma, even burnout and stress, share a common thread that we call experiential avoidance. Now, what does that mean? It's the tendency to negatively evaluate, suppress, or escape from, or avoid difficult internal experiences, emotions, thoughts, body sensations, right? And that's understandable because it's distressing to deal with stress or depression, right? So it's understandable that we want to avoid it, but that also pulls us away from our values or potentially the life we want to live. And over time, this kind of avoidance doesn't just reduce pain, but it also reduces joy, curiosity, meaning, aliveness, right? It's kind of a package deal. We can't just avoid certain emotions, but kind of have others, right? It's, when we are in avoidance, we're kind of shutting everything down, right? So that can pull us out of flow or prevent us from ever reaching flow. So what is flow, right? I'm going to throw a bunch of terminology at you. So flow is a psychological state of deep, energized focus where we're fully immersed in what we're doing. And in this flow, we perform at our best, right? We're learning, we're creative, we have a sense of well-being, there's often meaning in it, right? And we can experience that in many, many different settings. Some people experience it most easily when being active, sports, right? Activities. We can experience it playing or listening to music, art, making art. And you don't have to be an artist, right? That could just be painting by numbers and you get into flow, or knitting, huh? Writing, teaching, coding. Some people, when they're writing code, software engineers can experience that. We can have it in parenting, a beautiful moment, in therapy, even, right? A session that just flows well. So flow tends to arise when challenge and skill are well matched, right? If it's too easy, boredom, right? We're just going through it. If it's too hard, anxiety, frustration, so nervous system activation, right? So flow is in sort of in that middle. So how are flow and discomfort connected? Flow does not arise from comfort, right? Comfort is probably more in the what some people call the boring zone or the easy zone, right? And that's okay. We can't always be in flow, right? It's good to have comfortable cruising experiences as well. But flow really arises from manageable discomfort, right? So that moment where a challenge slightly exceeds our current skills, right? Where effort is required, failure is possible, but threat is low, right? So this is important. Effort is required, failure is possible, there's some risk, but the threat is low. We're not in a danger nervous system state, right? So it's important. We always have to think about our nervous system. And in this level of discomfort, we have really sharp attention, right? Sometimes people have that experience that everything falls away and you're just focused on the thing. uh. It really drives learning and it quiets the sort of self-conscious rumination that we can find ourselves in. And then we kind of move into action. And in that state, we can also take in feedback. It feels safe, right? And the effort feels energizing, not draining. But not all discomfort supports flow, right? So I mentioned this before. there is productive versus overwhelming discomfort. So, productive discomfort allows for clear thinking, curiosity, continued engagement. But excessive discomfort activates the nervous system's threat response, fight, flight, right? Or shut down. And then flow collapses, right? When we're unsafe, fight, flight, shut down, that means we're unsafe, then we can't be in flow. So, a simple question to ask yourself is, can I fail here and still feel basically safe? Right? So, if yes, then you're in the right kind of discomfort and you can, you have an opportunity to experience flow. If not, the challenge or the environment needs adjustment, right? It could be that you're surrounded by people who are not safe or who are overly critical, right? That's the environment. Or it could be you just kind of maybe aiming a little too high, doing a little too much. So when we're repeatedly in this safe zone, uncomfortable but safe, right? Discomfort becomes associated with growth rather than danger, right? So then let's say you're, working out for the first time after a long time. And if you go in too hard, it's uncomfortable, you feel bad about yourself, right? But if you start small and slow and you feel a bit of that discomfort, right? And over time, that discomfort is associated with your muscles getting stronger, you maybe improving your cardiovascular fitness, right? So you're easing into it. If you go too fast, it can be disappointing, or you can feel like I'm not cut out for this, I can't do this, and then there's a greater chance of quitting. So I already talked about the environment and safe people. So this really is kind of the missing ingredient, right? A lot of people kind of talk about discomfort, no pain, no gain. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. Okay, sure, that's all true, but we need a safe base. We need to have a safe base to return to, kind of like the exercise, the meditation we did in the beginning. Hopefully, you had an experience of returning to a safe base within yourself. So, this safe base comes from attachment theory, which is a theory in psychology developed by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, for those of you who, and all the names is in the presentation. So they did this by observing parents and children. Right, so a safe base is a secure emotional anchor that allows for exploration. For any of you who have children or had, younger children, they might be grown, or if you have young children, right, you sometimes observe them kind of walking away from you, and then they look back. They're like checking on you, right? They're like, is dad still there? Am I okay? Can I venture out? That's a visualization of the safe base, right? A child that is safe can venture out because they know the parents back there, or the caretaker is back there, or the teacher is back there. So a child learns to explore the world and stretch and take risks and then return for comfort when distressed. And so there is this balance of safety and exploration that's foundational, not just for childhood, but really for lifelong nervous system regulation, right? We learn a lot of our nervous system regulation skills in childhood through these principles. So when we learn that in a good enough way, the safe base, we can individuate, meaning we can separate from our parents. So we can move toward independence and, take risks, and because we carry safety inside. Without that safe base, whether on the outside or on the inside, challenge can feel dangerous, daunting, perhaps even impossible. With a good enough safe base, it feels possible. And so, why is that important? Well, as we already learned, flow requires some discomfort, some risk, some uncertainty, right? Because we're really pushing ourselves or stretching ourselves a little bit. So we need to have that safe base either internally or externally. So how do we learn that? I already talked about parenting, right? So we learn that if we're lucky to have good enough parents. This was another term coined by Donald Winnicott. So he created this idea that parents don't have to be perfect, they just have to be good enough. Yeah, that's good news to all of you parents. Just have to be good enough, meaning that you get it a little bit more right than you get it wrong. So I find that a bit encouraging, better than perfection, right? But not all of us get that, right? Some people don't have a good enough parent and they grow up with trauma. They grow up in homes where there isn't a safe base, right? So they don't have that internalized. But don't worry, that doesn't mean you're broken. We can still build it as adults, right? Through internal and external supports. Mostly a trauma therapist, so I that's exactly what I focus on, right? Most of my clients are people who didn't have good enough parenting, who had a lot of attachment ruptures or very critical parents. But we can still build that. We have this beautiful neuroplasticity in our brain. It's not too late, right? We can rebuild that at any point. It might be a little harder, it might be a little effortful, and sometimes feel a little weird, but we can absolutely do it. So, how do we build that as an adult? Internal supports, right? Building psychological flexibility. At the very beginning, I talked about psychological avoidance or emotional avoidance. And kind of the antidote to that is psychological flexibility, how we talk to ourselves under pressure. If I constantly say to myself, ah, I suck, I'm never going to get this, I'm so bad at this, I'm never going to reach this goal, whatever, of course, it's very discouraging, right? Psychological flexibility also includes how quickly we recover from setbacks, uh, as well as practices that build resilience, embodiment, regulation. So we're going to do one in a moment. And then external supports include good enough relationships in adulthood. Friends, partners, mentors, therapists, coaches, groups, communities, spiritual places, even imaginal or symbolic supports, right? Imagining a dear friend who is really supportive of us, our very own cheerleader. So those are some ways we can do that. So I'll show a little example of what that looks like in my life or looked like in my life, and then we'll I just have to share the screen here. And then I'll make this a little bit more specific for other examples. Okay, so I oh, this should be animated. Okay. So I cycled. Nope, that's the wrong screen. Apologies. Here we go. Okay. So I cycled 2 years ago, I cycled 900 miles through Germany with my partner, my husband. We did a self-supported bicycle tour on gravel bikes, cycling from the south of Germany to the mo northeasternmost point, to the Baltic Sea. So initially things were going well, right? It was so beautiful, incredible. I was in the flow zone. It was hot and, but I was managing. We were eating a lot of good food, seeing about a lot of beautiful vistas, as you can see here in this picture. And then it got really hard. You can see the trail got incredibly challenging. It was more of a mountain bike trail. I had a gravel bike, very hard, carbon fiber. My wrists were constantly hurting. I couldn't cruise. And it went outside that challenge level. You can see a very unhappy me here, very close to meltdown. I mean, really, my nervous system was completely dysregulated, right? The challenge was too much. I didn't have the right gear. I was too inexperienced for the kind of trails we were hitting as we were progressing. And I couldn't sleep, right? The whole nervous system regulation. But then we adjusted. Luckily, I have a good partner, right? External support. I didn't have a good internal mindset initially. I felt like I was failing. I was failing my partner. I was failing myself. But we adjusted the route. We picked a slightly easier route. I worked on my mindset. My partner was very supportive. And this is where we ended. This is the Germany's northeasternmost point on the island Rügen. So just to share that I understand this process, right? This regulation can be intense. Now, not all of you might want to cycle 900 miles through Germany to get to this point, right? There are many everyday versions of this. Growth doesn't have to look that dramatic. And I want to say, I'm a lifelong sufferer of anxiety. That trip, even though it was so difficult during, after my anxiety was noticeably reduced. So that challenge overall actually helped my nervous system, even though in between it was incredibly difficult. And as I said, several full-on meltdowns were being had by me. So, what are some everyday versions of that? Couch to 5K. If you've never heard of that, these are groups where people meet that haven't been running, maybe have never run, right? The couch idea, sitting on the couch, gradually moving up to a 5K with support, right? Note the support aspect of this. You're not doing it alone. 12-step or peer support programs, groups, right? You might be familiar with AA or other such groups. So that's another everyday version of that, where you're in a community, you're healing and working on difficult things, right? So the 12-step programs are programs of self-responsibility. People take an inventory. It's quite challenging, right? But they're not doing it alone. They're being supported. A good coach or therapist can do that. In software engineering, there's something called pair programming, where you sit together to code or program together and support each other and troubleshoot in the moment. So again, notice the safe base, the attachment component of that. Body doubling, right? We learned this from neurodivergent human beings, clients, people, the body doubling. I have some clients who just go to a library to do some, reading or writing tasks because the presence of other bodies that are focused, that are calm, has an impact on our nervous system, right? Or even sometimes people just team up to read together or work on something together. They're not necessarily talking, they're just working together, right? So again, notice the component of another person. Volunteering, like working with others on a shared goal can be beautiful, right? So we have shared goals, we have some structure typically, there's compassion, and then there's support when things get tough. Yeah? And that's a safe base in action. So you might already have some of that in your life without even just having the language for it. And if not, maybe this gives you some ideas how to find it. So if you're pursuing a goal and consistently find yourself stressed, anxious, avoidant, shut down, frustrated, or any number of upregulated or downregulated states, instead of asking what's wrong with me, ask, do I need more internal kindness or flexibility? Is the challenge calibrated to my current capacity, or do I need to adjust it? Am I focused only on the outcome instead of being in process, enjoying the process, perhaps even, or appreciating it? Because we spend a lot more time in process than in a particular goal, if you think about it, right? So might as well learn to enjoy the process because we spend more time there. Do I need support? Human, professional, communal, and all of those are human, but group support, professional support, like hiring someone or a buddy, pair programming, right? Body doubling. So I just talked about that. And do I need to practice nervous system regulation through movement, meditation, breathing exercises, other such resourcing? Right? So it's often not another task we need, it's just a different way of being or of approaching what we're already doing. So I hope I'm going to wrap this up and then we'll do a guided meditation and then open up. I hope I sort of have really brought to life that growth and flow does require discomfort, but it does not require danger or too much discomfort. And that when discomfort is held inside safety, the nervous system can open up. And with that, we're able to learn, we're able to pay attention, and we're able to enter flow states. And from that state or from that place, change isn't forced, it's kind of inevitable. It'll just happen. So I'll end this with a guided meditation that practices this psychological flexibility that I talked about. And this was actually developed by Rick Hansen, who I think has spoken today or is speaking today, or at the very least in this summit, right? So if you haven't listened to his presentation, please do. He is amazing. And this is called letting be, letting go, letting in. I'll do a short version of it. So if you feel like, oh, this is too short for me, just look it up. There are plenty of options to re-listen to that, right? I just want to give you a little illustration of building that psychological flexibility, that ability to shift from one state to the other, to reframe, to kind of even change our physical state. Okay? So again, I'll invite you to get comfortable, to close down your eyes if that feels safe, or lower your gaze, or find any way to go inward that is helpful to you. And just take a moment and kind of check in with your breathing. So just breathe for a moment. I know I've talked quite a bit, brought up a lot of concepts, so just take a couple of breaths into that. And bring up a basic sense of being on your own side, kind of a sense of goodwill for yourself, maybe compassion for the ways in which your life might be challenging right now. And if that's difficult, think what you might say to a loved one or a dear friend, or what you might feel toward them, and see if you can extend a little bit of that toward yourself. And with that, I want you to bring up a situation that is mildly difficult. If we had a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is neutral, 10 is the most challenging situation in your life, it's like a 2, max 3, like a little wrangle, someone cutting you off in traffic, or just a little something nagging at you. And on the basis of this thing, we'll go through the three phases, and don't overthink it. Whatever comes to mind first, as long as it's not too distressing or difficult, just work with that. And in the first phase, letting be, we're just getting a sense of what the experience of this issue is like for you. So first notice your body. What has shifted in your body? Maybe there's some tension or bracing. Maybe your breathing has changed. Maybe there's some agitation or restlessness, just some tightness, some constriction. And extend that awareness to your emotions and feelings. What emotions and feelings have come up? It might be frustration, might be something mild, might be something a little bigger. And you can just name it silently if that helps. Sometimes it's good to say, hello, hello, frustration. Hello, anxiety. That's like a greeting it almost, labeling it. Extend that awareness also to any thoughts, cognitions, beliefs that have come up. That could be beliefs about yourself, beliefs about the world, about others. Often these beliefs show up as absolutes. I never, they never, always. You can label those as well, just note them. And lastly, you might get some additional memories or associations that show up, and you can notice those as well, just paying attention to what comes up. And now see if you can step away from this a little bit. Imagine all of this is on a movie screen, very far away. You're sitting in the back row. It's real, it's happening, but you're watching it from far away. Or like a cloud in a vast and boundless sky. Well, the cloud's there, but the sky is so much bigger. And with that, we'll move to the second phase, letting go. So here we're hopefully working with a challenge that's amenable to at least some change, and maybe you just have the intention to change. And start with your body. See if you can relax, calm, soothe, unfurl your body to whatever extent it's gotten stirred up. Really good to work with your exhale here. Imagine that every time you're exhaling, you're releasing some tension. Every time you're exhaling, you're softening a little bit. Belly, shoulders, face, hands. And see if every time you exhale, you can release some of these unpleasant or difficult emotions that have come up. Maybe they're flowing out of you like liquid through your feet or hands and just disappearing. And do the same with any thoughts and beliefs, just letting them go, letting them go, letting them go, saying goodbye. Take another couple of breaths, let go of whatever else can be let go of right now. Maybe even sigh it out. Just a big sigh, letting it go. And then the last phase, letting in, just working with your exhale, bringing in some goodness, bringing in some positive emotions, thoughts, feelings. This could be a beautiful color flowing through you every time you inhale. This could be a positive message, a mantra, or an affirmation that you repeat. I am enough. I am okay. I am here. I am safe. And take one more nice deep breath in. Reach your hands overhead if you like and just stretch a little bit. Oh, maybe twist a bit, circle your head and shoulders. Whew. If you need to shake a little bit, shake your hands out. Okay, I have talked for long enough. I'm going to open it up to Q&A or just observations. Feel free to use the raised hand function. You can put it in the chat, just jump in. We're still a pretty small group, so whatever works for you, I'd love to hear from you. Observations, questions, even just sharing what it was like for you to listen to do this. Yeah, and if I don't see you, I think Suzanne, I think you have your hand up. If I don't see you, because I don't see everybody, use the raised hand function in Zoom. Okay? All right. Suzanne, hello.
Hi there. Um, I just wanted to say that the observation that I have that when you did the very first meditation about moving into outer space, um, and just looking down at the earth, um, instantly, I felt less anxious, more calm, just a rem just stepping back. I too struggle with a lifetime of anxiety problems. And that was, I will use that. There's no doubt about it. I will use that. I will back out and go, okay, let's go to outer space. And not that that problem that's sitting in my house or in my head, not that it's going to go away, but it's a stepping back and going, okay, let's step back. And when I did that, I noticed that my breathing slowed down immediately. So that was just an observation. So that I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. I'm so glad you had that experience. Yeah, and if you want to listen to it again, it is on my YouTube channel, so you can find it there. Yeah, so I'm so glad. Yes, it helps. Okay, somebody had in the chat, can you say more about doubling, body doubling? So, we co-regulate each other as human beings, right? As a species that is a collaborative species. At least we're designed that way, right? So co-regulation is something where my nervous system can regulate your nervous system or vice versa, right? If I was here and I totally agitated, you would feel it too, right? So In body doubling, there is this idea that you're not alone. There's another nervous system with you with the same goal and intention, for example, to work quietly, and that creates a feedback mechanism. Right? So two people, instead of one person being distracted and on their own, now you have two people who can remind each other, who are present with each other. And that is both cognitive, but also on the physiological level, there is that co-regulation is the term for it. Yeah, Alondra, I hope I said your name correctly. I hope this addresses your question. If not, just speak up again and I'll try to clarify it.
Does
Uh,
it work? Does it work in the opposite direction? Like if somebody is super dysregulated and there's certain people that I want to stay away from naturally. So is that the same?
100%. I'm so glad you brought that up. Absolutely. We pick it up. If somebody's super dysregulated or you're meeting someone and their face maybe is calm, but you're like, oh, something doesn't feel good. Your nervous system is picking something up. So trust that. Yeah, it goes both ways for sure. Beautiful. I think Sue, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, out of all the talks that I've been listening to, I found myself more struck by your authenticity and your ability to make things available to a wide number of people, I would think. I've been practicing for over 25 years and living out of the country and came back to visit my family and was beset by what they're calling new daily persistent headache. So it's having headache and tinnitus 24/7 and for over 4 months and trying to find the good in it and I have a lot of tools to be able to manage this, although it's been difficult. And one of the ways that I've managed it is by crafting, making things, knitting, and I'm so excited to make my friend a thing. So during the first part of the talk, I was knitting. And then when you did that last, let it be, let it go, let it in, I was left with zero desire to knit. So, it's like you don't feel like you're stressed, but there's this kind of drawing toward doing for some of us. I'm a recovering doaholic, so this has really been good for me to work on that. Anyway, I just wanted to comment that when how effective these practices are in grounding us, and I've really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue, and thanks for sharing. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm seeing a few things in the chat. Danielle is saying, I found it helpful to add let go and trust. I love that. Estefania is saying, love the parent-child analogy for adults regarding safe discomfort, right? Yeah, that's really I think a lot about parenting, right? Because in therapy or when we work with someone else, in a way, we're replicating parenting patterns for better or for worse, right? So it's helpful to think about these underlying principles. And then Nadine is clarifying also as a person with ADHD, if I have trouble getting something done, I just ask a person to sit near me and I'm able to work better. Yeah, they can do their own thing. Absolutely. That's the idea of body doubling. Thank you for clarifying that, right? So it's the presence of someone else. Yeah, Bob is saying best session this week. Oh, thank you. This is beautiful. I knew about the things you mentioned. Help me integrate them. Wonderful. Okay, I see one raised hand and then a question in the chat. So I'm going to go to the raised hand and then the chat question. I think Mara, that's you, right? Hello.
Hi. I had a question about the coming home meditation, and I wondered if it's more so appropriate for the hyperarousal states. I ask because I have dissociative tendencies. I'm not dissociated right now, so I actually felt that it was very grounding, but I just wonder for those of us who do kind of tend to be spacey already, if it will be counterproductive or if actually that going out, being aware that you're out and coming back in would actually regulate, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would say it depends, right? I typically, when I work with people, I'm a little bit more individual. right? So I can gauge where they're at, and are they dissociating? Do they need more grounding? I, yes, potentially you're right. Absolutely, right? I would say I like this one because it has both the zooming out, but then also the regrounding in our senses, which often helps with dissociation, right? So the sense of sight and hearing and so on. But you bring up a valid point. It's a possibility, right? And I'm glad you didn't experience that. So that's, I take that a good sign. But with any meditation, right, what works for one person doesn't work for the other. And so it's always tough to do it on these calls because it's like there's 57 people here, right? But I think your point is incredibly well made. And I'm glad you brought it up because if there were people here that dissociated or found themselves dissociating, then I just want to validate this is not your fault. It's just a factor that this meditation isn't right for you and maybe just kind of moved you out of yourself too much. So I'm glad you spoke to that, Mara. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah. Okay, so I think there is a question in the chat. Irina? Resilience question. On mental level, I believe I was always confident with positive approach to life. I was mentally resilient, but totally disconnected from my body, hence burnout 5 years ago. Yeah, one could say I didn't hear myself. Still learning to work with my body. How can I build resilience on the body level? Great question. This really speaks to actually also what Mara brought up, the dissociation or disconnection from our body, right? Why do we do that? We do that because at some point in life it wasn't safe to be in our body. That could have been in adulthood, that could have been in childhood. So we disconnected from it because emotion happens in the body, sensation happens in the body, right? And if emotional sensation is too overwhelming at some point, we disconnect from it. We numb out. Addiction can happen there, workaholism, right? All the things we've talked about, some of them today. So, resilience in the body level, and it's tough for me to respond without more context, but I would say a big and important part is safe return to the body and to the sensations. So, what that means is to gently redirect my attention to the body as much as it is safe. We sometimes call that titration, right? So, for example, trying a body scan, right? There are guided meditations on there that help you scan your body. The benefit of a body scan is increasing your awareness of your body and the different parts where it feels tense, where it feels relaxed, where it feels at ease. Another way could be to work with breath, right? Just noticing where your breath is. Because breath is both an autonomic function, meaning it happens without our doing, and it's also a function we can control or regulate, right? So just paying attention to my breath can tell me where I am in the nervous system. Am I holding my breath? Am I breathing really hard? Is my breath long and slow? Or is it too slow, right? Shut down, numb. So those are a couple of things that I would explore. And then even I call this mindfulness in the moment. Checking in periodically throughout the day. You could even set yourself a timer, of, Apple Watch or whatever fun thing gadgets you have available. Just a little check-in. What am I noticing in my body right now? What am I noticing right now? You can all ask yourself that in this moment. What am I noticing right now in my body? Yeah, and if you feel you're going to your head, to your thoughts, that tells you something, right? So really bringing attention. And then practicing the state shifting that we did in the last meditation, right? So where we're allowing a little bit of discomfort and then returning to a grounded state. So so I'm sorry, I hope this is specific enough because it's hard without context, but hopefully this gives you some ideas, Irena. Okay. Um, all right. And feel free to follow up. Yeah. Just seeing if there's any other questions in the chat. Um, yeah, somatic experiencing therapy is a fantastic way to work on kind of being more in your body and healing on a somatic, on a physical level. Yeah. Suzanne, you have your hand up. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Hey again.
I have a question for you. Um, on this body doubling. Is it possible? I spend an enormous amount of time by myself. I have a lot of health issues, and so I can't get out. In this body doubling, is there a possibility that I could seek within myself the other part of me that is calm? In other words, not all of me is completely anxious and whatever. In other words, could I say, wait a minute, there's another piece of me that is calm. Is it possible to reframe that if I can't get another person to be with me? Is it possible to say, okay, within me is another piece that is calm and sit with that and be with that and be a part of that?
I love that. I love that you brought that up, right? This is the idea of parts work, IFS being the most popular of it, but there's many different ways of working with parts. And that's an incredibly powerful way, first of all, to conceptualize ourselves. You're so wise, right, Suzanne, in what you're saying. Not all of you is anxious. Not all of me is angry when I'm angry. Not all of me is scared when I'm scared, right? We are always multitude. And that is really true, right? All of us. This is not a mental condition. This is not dissociative disorder or multiple personality disorder. We all contain multitude. So, yes, finding that part of us, right? If if that works, that's a beautiful way to kind of co-regulate yourself, right? So that's an inner resource where we co-regulate ourselves. So yeah, sometimes that also works for people to have an imaginal figure, like for some people that could be a guardian angel, that could be an ancestor, right? Especially in traditions with strong ancestor traditions or ancestral connections, could be any number of those things. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I see a few more things in the chat. Yeah, somebody's commenting, sounds like tapping into IFS parts work. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And there's other ways to practice parts work, but yeah, fantastic. I'm a big believer in that. So Anna is saying, how to best reconnect with the body when the traumatic death of a parent during youth sent you out there for almost a lifetime, causing excessive stress that does not seem to be able to be taken care of at all. Oh, first of all, my heart just goes out to you. Yeah. And again, I want to be so cautious because I'm sharing, in this forum with little information. I don't know if you've done therapy, if you've done grief work, right? I imagine that there is maybe still a lot of grief. Grief can disconnect us from our bodies. Grief is an important emotion. It's a very difficult emotion. And culturally, at least in the West, we don't do a good job with it, right? We're kind of just expected to move on after a while and you're done now, right? You get your 3 weeks off. And of course, as a child, I don't know, how much support you got, right? So all I can say is if you haven't done therapy around that, that would be helpful. Grief work, perhaps even somatic grief or somatic work therapy around the stress, right? Something is maybe held in your body that hasn't been released or expressed, and that needs to be kind of maybe gently released or processed out. And so I'm answering with great caution because this is such a tough topic, and I don't want to give you bad advice on limited information that I have available, but maybe this gives you some ideas. What's great is you already have a connection. You made a connection, right? You made a connection between that event and the excessive stress. That's already really, really good. So maybe seeking some professional help if you haven't to build on that. Liana is asking, how can I distinguish if I'm avoiding the problem, avoiding setting boundaries, etc., or that I'm not letting the problem affect me? Oh yeah, that's such a good question, right? So avoidance will always lead to some kind of compensation pattern. So if I'm avoiding something, somehow it's going to come back to me. Either I'm going to feel numb or checked out all the time, right? The disconnection, or there's rumination, right? Especially with boundary setting, I found if I don't set a boundary, suddenly there's a resentment, or I'm ruminating over that person or the interaction or myself. So there is some kind of unresolved effect when I'm avoiding something. Agitation, so more into fight flight, dysregulation, or more into shutdown. Versus true acceptance, for example, right? Equanimity, right? Where I can think about the situation and feel, for example, I did the best I could and I handled it the best way I could, or I feel neutral to positive toward the person and myself, or I've made a decision to not interact with that person anymore and I'm good. I can let I genuinely don't have to think about it anymore. I'm not ruminating. It's not popping back up at night or when I'm in a Zoom call or something. It's genuinely, it's in the past, right? And I don't have a nervous system response to it because our nervous system doesn't lie. We can fool ourselves cognitively, right? We can be like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine, honey, right? That is situation. But our nervous system will always tell the truth either by shutting down or dysregulating. Okay, I'm getting a heart from you, so I feel I answered your question. Thank you. Um, and thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And somebody's saying thank you for the bike trip. Helps to clarify. Yeah, yeah, good. I'm glad that was clarifying. We have 3 minutes. Any other questions, comments that we can address in a few minutes? Yeah, well then, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind comments, your excellent questions and comments. The presentation, I think Hot Mind will send it out. I don't know how the process, Eric is nodding. Yeah, so you have access. There's a couple of links in there, as I said, to that grounding meditation and the letting be, letting go, letting in. I don't have currently a meditation of that, but it's a pretty popular Rick Hansen meditation, so it's going to be out there. Um, yeah, thank you so much for all the love. And sports has always been great to address flow for me. Same, Krista. I'm the same way. I'm very active, if you can't tell, usually more high energy. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have any questions, find me, reach out. Thank you for the love. Thank you for being here and sharing and co-creating this space today. And thank you to Hot Mind for making this possible. I love these Q&As. I think that's such a wonderful addition to it. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Ah, de
Au
rien.
revoir.
Avec plaisir.
Gracias.
Mon français est très mauvais.
Non, vous avez un bel accent.
Ah, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir, merci.
Au revoir. Bonne
Gracias.
soirée. De nada.
Thank you, Katja. And
You're
Rick
welcome.
Hansen's tomorrow. So thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, please go and watch his presentation. He's amazing and he'll deepen some of the things I talked about in a much more eloquent way.
Thanks,
You were
everyone.
very elegant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sue. All right. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Bye. Have a wonderful weekend.